5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. What's up, champions? Coach Rael here with Getting Real with Rael, where we get real, authentic, and vulnerable. I always like to say, you know my glory, but you don't know my story. I'm so excited about today's guest, and the topic is, have you found your purpose? Now, my guest today, there couldn't be a better person to talk about this, and you're going to hear his story, and we're going to talk about different things, but I wanted to share and preface with this because I talk about this all the time, right? You've heard me say this. I get up and I'm blessed with another day. I look around, and how do I go out and attack that day? With excellence, right? Why? Because it has our signature on it. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want in your tombstone? What kind of legacy do you want to leave, right? And this is exactly why we're talking about, have you found your purpose? Because nothing could be worse, honestly, in my opinion, is going through your entire life and not finding your calling or not responding to your calling just because you settled. So without further ado, I want to bring in my guest, Mike Brown. How are you, champion?
Doing great, Rael. Thank you for having me on here and to be joining you on a purposeful topic. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's just jump right in. I got a whole bunch of great stuff I want to ask you, but I want to start. I always start, right? And I ask and I beg of people, don't just show us the great stuff. Let's be real authentic, because I truly believe that those victories are great. Lead by example, but I think so many people get taken right out of the game because they look up and they say, wow, that couldn't be me. But they think that you got the perfect life, that, I got the perfect life. Look at Mike. He's got the perfect wife, the perfect baby, everything is perfect, real. And we both know, well, I can talk about my house. It ain't like that behind closed doors, perfect. We work at it. So take us back, Mike. I like to start around 5 if you can, and share your story with us from there to here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, all the way back to age 5. So born and raised in Southern California, Orange County. Grew up in Fullerton and Brea. I went to Brea High School. And around age 5, I think I showed my first kind of signs of being entrepreneurial. Literally for like first grade science projects, like made this thing called Jolly Rancher juice, which I've still got the poster board from it. My mom wound up finding it like 20 years later and framed it as a Christmas gift. And it says, we need to make Jolly Rancher juice to differentiate our snack stand in the neighborhood because everybody else just had lemonade. So always kind of had that, like, let's find some ways to take a passion and to take it to the next level. So collected basketball cards, grew up playing sports and basketball, and very competitive is one of the kind of traits of my personality. And started collecting cards and built a website in like 1998 in order to trade cards with people all around the country that I couldn't find with people that were in the local baseball, basketball card market. And then, just kind of, I'm very grateful and very blessed to have had a stable family upbringing. I would say kind of middle class upbringing. And I don't remember having nights where we were hungry. I don't remember having times where there was a lot of chaos or turmoil. And that's something that I know that I have gratitude for. And I do not take that for granted, because that's something that I think empowered me to have confidence towards going forward in taking risk. And it kind of empowered me in those moments. And but things weren't perfect. I applied to get into USC, into the business school, and got declined and didn't really understand why, and had to kind of come to grips with that. And like, it was one of the first moments in my life where it's like, you're not admitted into something, you're not approved into it. And wound up going to Chapman University here in Orange and getting some financial aid in order to afford that private school. And that wound up being a blessing in disguise in and of itself, because that's kind of what led me towards starting my first company while I was there as an undergraduate student. So that's it at a high level from age 5 up until my early adulthood.
Now, that's awesome. Now, so what was as a kid? And do you know why I pick age 5, Mike?
I don't. Tell me.
Well, I always start at 5 because 5 is actually a very crucial year for us. It's like it's that age when, because of what's happened, can either mold us in a good direction or a bad direction, or not so much. It's like, do you have those parents that, I had those parents, don't dream big. There's no such word as CNT, but some people have, you're useless, you never do anything right, or all kind of stuff. There could be all kind of crazy stuff. So that 5 is a pivotal area. So what would you say is your best memory as a kid, your best memory?
I've got 2. I've got one from my mom, one from my dad. So from my dad, I think it would be the accumulation of showing up, of being there. He was the kind of dad that if I had a basketball practice, he would be there for practice in addition to being there for the games, and we would play, one-on-one in the backyard kind of thing. And I learned from my dad that one of the ways to express love inside a family or in general is, love is time spent. One of the 5 love languages is quality time. So I think that's something really important there. And then for my mom, I have very vivid memories of her reading to my older brother and I. So I've got one older brother, he's 2 years older than me, great guy. And she would read books to us. So I have very vivid memories of that. And we read from the Bible together. We kind of go to Sunday school together and do those type of activities. And so both parents kind of being there and showing up. And as a little one, I had very severe asthma. I would get wheezing every single day. I was on a breathing machine in the morning, breathing machine in the middle of the day, right after school, and breathing machine before bed, as well as prescription pills morning and night to kind of try to open up my lungs a little bit. So, but that I never got from my parents any sort of a victim mentality or that I couldn't do things. If I wanted to go try and play a sport, they empowered that. And soccer didn't work out too well for me because the grass would you wheeze like crazy. So I switched to basketball and found that as kind of a pathway to fuel that competitive drive that I had. And around age 13 or 14, I just kind of grew out of the asthma and haven't struggled with it since.
I totally forgot about this, Mike. I had asthma too, and you just took me back. I remember the times lying on my bed, just like trying to get that breath, and that's not a good feeling. It's very scary if anybody hasn't, experienced that. But it's crazy how sometimes people say things. I totally forgotten about that. So let's flip 360 degrees. What would be your worst memory as a kid?
Worst memory as a kid. I mean, I think it's got to be that, like, it's kind of like as a young adult more so, but that decline letter from USC was a big one for me. That's the one that's top of mind for me right now. I think also in addition to that would be kind of losing grandparents. At an age where you're able to realize a loss, but also have some feelings of regret of maybe not getting as much quality time with those grandparents as could have been there. And my grandpa lived in Oklahoma. I was in Southern California, so there wasn't a whole lot of time spent in those areas. And we got some good quality time before he passed away. But I think those are a couple of those tough moments that were tough in the moment, but had a lot of learning opportunities in it as well.
Yeah, it's funny when I'm listening to you talk about that, and I listen to you talk about your dad showing up, and there's different things. It's so important that we just show up with excellence and grind every day. I got some news yesterday. I'm not really ready to talk about it publicly yet, but it's amazing how your life can just change like that. And you think about, it just makes me think, it reminds me of, my mom was very sick, and it was one of those things. I live in California, she lives in Vancouver, she lived in Vancouver, and it was like, oh, you got to come home right now, you got to come. And it happened so many times that, well, I'm not going to get on a plane and come home this time because she's just going to be fine. Then the last time she said, no, you really need to come up. The doctor called us. And so we went up there, and sure enough, Mom's like, hey, how you doing? And, you know, so we were like, really? You know, like, as much as you're happy, but it's really, right? And then Mom just looked fine. Everything was great. And then me and my cousin went to visit her one night. She was still in the hospital. And she was like, I'm going to go tomorrow morning at 5 in the morning. And we were like, yeah, okay, Mom, sure, yeah, okay. And me and my cousin just left, and we went out, and dude, 5 o'clock in the morning, I get a call, and they said, your mom passed. And I was like, you know, those are those moments, you know, because you go like, man, she told me that. If I would have listened and just stayed with her the whole night, you know, because the one thing my mom always said, I don't want to die alone. And it was like, that's the only thing she asked me. I don't want to die alone. So, yeah, I get that, man. It's tough when you don't have those things, you know, those moments, you know.
You still made the choice to get up there and to be, you know, there in those final days. So, I mean, you can't always be there in that final moment, but you still made the choice to be up there for that. So,
thank you for that. So, listen, one of the things I love, I've only seen it a couple times, and I love it, man. I watched you with Katie, your amazing wife. I've seen you on stage with Katie. I've seen you in videos with Katie, and I just admire and long, like the way you look at her when she's talking, and the way she looks at you. It's like, man, I just honor that and envy that in a good way at the same time. Tell me a little bit about Katie. How did you meet? Because I know she's so important in your life.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. I mean, that's a great way to describe us and our, you know, marriage, is that we really are in love with each other, and we're not afraid to show it. And we've talked about that, so we've shown it too much. And our belief is that love is something special and it's worth honoring, and it's there, show it. And so Katie and I, we met like January 2016. So we're not talking about too long ago. We're still really in that newlywed stage. And she joined a kind of a car enthusiast group that I've been a part of for many years, that is all about giving back to the community, using our platform of, you know, nice cars in order to come together and do back to school drives, or Christmas gift drives, or, you know, coats for the homeless. She joined this, and it's mainly through a Facebook group. And I did the thing that I never do, which is, well, first off, when she got added, there was this like Match.com style dating profile for car enthusiasts. She had driven all these cars that are like very near and dear to my heart: BMW E46 M3 convertible, not convertible, E46 M3 in Laguna Seca blue, like this legendary color. And I was just like, and then I thought she was just, you know, drop dead gorgeous. So I did what I never do, which is I sent a friend request cold. And she did what she does, which is to build relationships. And she messaged me back. And from there, just fireworks started going off. And it was 11 months later, we were engaged. And now, and then 8 months after that, we got married. And then we bought a home together. And now we have a gorgeous little girl, Kira, that she's almost, she's 6.5 months, or she's 7.5 months now. And it's an absolute blessing. And we've had a lot of learning experiences as new spouses, and also as new parents. And we had a big learning experience when Kira came about 6 weeks early, and had a 20-day stay in the NICU. And, you know, she's healthy and everything, but when you have a baby that's born 6 weeks ahead of schedule, they got to stay and build their strength up and get their breathing right and get their eating habits. You know, they have to be able to actually like use their jaw muscles in order to feed. So we had a lot of high stress in those moments, and we're so thankful that we had the Amare platform of products, programs, and people to be a foundation of stress resilience for us. And looking back on it now, and still, really still coming out from it on the other side, we are so strong as a family unit, and our love grew through something that could have been a really, really destructive event in our lives, because there was a lot of stress and we could have handled it differently. And we're just thankful for great support inside the Amare community as well. It was able to kind of help us get through those challenging times.
That's awesome. And I know what I love about you too is usually I do my podcast at 6:27, and we're doing it early because you want to be there for your baby and get home and your wife and that. So I honor that too. So that's something we're talking about. Have you found your purpose? And I want to when I say vision, because these are all parts of finding your purpose, and then we're going to come around full circle. So when I say vision, what does vision mean to you? Like, what does that mean to you? Because that's an important part of finding your purpose.
Yeah, to me, vision is if you had a white piece of paper in front of you and you had some crayons or pens or colored pencils, and you were to draw something, literally envision it and draw it, and think it as big as possible, and think as purposeful as possible inside that vision. A vision is something, it's a glimpse of something in the future to be worked towards. And you should be able to literally close your eyes and see. That to me is vision, and then it's matched up with core values and missions that help you to get to that vision.
Do you think, Mike? Do you think everybody has vision, or do you think some of us have it more than others, or what is your feeling on that?
I think everybody has the capability to have vision, but I think that sometimes we've been made aware of it at higher doses than others. So mentors are usually people that guide you towards vision. I mean, this podcast right here is guiding people towards being more visionary and more purposeful. And I fully believe that it is a learned behavior. I also believe that some people have a natural propensity or skill set that they can use as a platform to get there, but I don't think that it's exclusive just those people that have a talent in that area. I think that it absolutely is something that can be learned, practiced, and honed into something that you can become a master at if you focus on it.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I know, as I'm 56, I'm walking in a season right now that I truly believe I'm so in tune with who I am and where I'm going. I'm so in tune with, being obedient to that inner voice. I like to, what I'm talking about, Mike, the longest journey you're ever going to take is that 21 inches between your head and your heart. When it hits your heart, and then by the time it gets to our head, we can talk ourselves out of it, and so I would agree with that. And it's being around like-minded people and getting that belief, because once again, that goes back to the 5-year-old thing, right? Because it's very possible, let's think about this for a second. Actually, I just had a God moment. We probably all have that vision as a kid, but because of our different environments, don't dream this, that. Some of us it's taken away from us, and we're taught not to dream. We're taught not to have that vision. And because of like you said, you had a nurturing family, so that's why you have more vision than others. What do you think about that?
I think you nailed it right there. I do think it's just like our mental wellness, right? Mm-hmm. Most of us were taught to not take care of our mental health. And I think that many people, unfortunately, and very sadly, are taught not to be visionary. I think that, and I have a lot of empathy for that. And again, it's not something that I take for granted, being brought up in a stable household and, in all the areas of giving back. I've learned that that's not necessarily the majority. And I think that that's part of our purpose at Amare, is to empower great mental wellness that can empower positivity and empower just great love and respect for one another, and expressing belief in each other and saying everybody has the potential, and potential is achieved by great practices and great work ethic, but potential is there. And I think if we can get a little bit more of that belief in each other and belief inside of our family units, that to me, it has an exponential effect on a difference-making area of our country. As my tagline is, I will believe in you till you believe in yourself. And there's so many people, and it really breaks my heart, that they just don't believe in themselves. They think, well, I'm just here to take up space. I truly believe whether you're
a CEO, a coach, an athlete, working at the department store, the gas station, the pizza delivery boy. I think everybody is amazing and they all have a gift. And a lot of people, as you know, they don't believe that, they don't give yourself value. So the next part, I really see it as four things. So the next thing, because you mentioned two of them, but I want to hit it. So mission. So when we take mission as part of our purpose, how would you describe that?
Yeah, mission to me is more tactical. Vision is seeing that glimpse and really being able to visualize it. Mission is saying, all right, that's there. How are we going to get there? Right? How are we going to move ourselves forward towards accomplishing that vision? And here at Amare, it's about a series of missions in order to get there. Our first mission is not the same mission that we have today. We're not going to have the same mission statement as a company. We said very early on, we're going to have mission statements for about 12 to 24 months because we're moving. And we're now out of that startup phase into growth company phase. And now our mission is clearly defined as creating the holistic mental wellness platform of products, programs, and people. The first mission was about products. We need to make those products and then expand it into an entire holistic platform. So to me, it's thinking more strategically and less abstract, but really honing it down and saying, that's where I want to go. What do I need to do in a series of missions in order to get there?
Love it. Okay, the next one, I want this twofold. Okay, the first one I want to hear yours. We're going to talk core values, and then I want you to share, on the core values of Amare. And like one of the things, I've been coaching on this for a while now. A good friend of mine, Susan Sly, taught me this, and I encourage the young champions, especially, to sit down and write out what your core values are. Like, I'm blanking with the Bible, your 12 commandments, or every company has core values or whatever. And I say, write out your core values. No smoking, has to be fit into fitness, has no negativity, those things. And as you're looking for your spouse, if they don't meet all, like if you got 10 core values, if they don't meet all 10, next. Don't try to change them. I think if we would do that, we'd be better off. So what are your personal core values? And was that a part of you meeting Katie?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think that I actually have a lot of core value overlap with Amare. So, I think the only one that doesn't transfer over directly is innovation, because that's more of a corporate core value to me personally. And on the personal side, we replace that with faith. And when we say faith, we do mean it from the spiritual sense, of course, but we also mean it in having faith in each other as partners, believing that the other person will be there for you, believing that the other person has the best intentions, believing that that person will be faithful in return. So that's kind of the main thing. And at our wedding, we both wrote independently our vows, and both of our vows were centered around our core values, around things like love and integrity and humility. And I think that it's just, I could not agree with you more. We're agreeing a lot that partnerships that take many forms, whether business or personal, alignment of core values is the most important thing. The most important thing. Because you can be aligned on vision or mission, but if you're not aligned on core values, it's not going to work. So yes, 10 out of 10. Katie and I have 5. Amare has 5. So I think that starting with core, and our marriage started with core values. We talked about it very early on. Katie and I even shared things like our personality kind of tests, like our strengths finder and our DISC profile and our emotional intelligence scores. And Katie was a sport, because it's not that I was like trying to test her on this, but I was sharing these self-awareness tools with her because they had made such a big difference in my life, and she had already done more than half of them. But any that she hadn't come across, I was like, hey, let's try this one together. And she was a sport about it, and it helped us to understand how to communicate with each other, because a lot of relationships, it's a breakdown of communication because there's not empathy for each other's communication style or each other's love language. And I think because we started that way, and we're both just, that's how we see the world. That's why we're able to build a relationship so quickly and move fast. I mean, in a 3-year period, to go from just meeting each other to being married and having a daughter and having, all those things in between is something that I think comes from core values. And the same thing for our executive team here at Amare.
Yeah, and you know what I love about that, Mike, and what's true. I mean, I know me personally, too many times, right? We try to say, I'm going to change that in that person. I'm going to, and that's a huge mistake. That's a huge trap. Let's just keep it real. I mean, that's going to make it tough for you because you're never going to change anybody, and that's just a bad. And I've left 2 companies that $1 million industries, $1 million businesses because I wasn't in alignment with basically certain people that I was running with. And to me, that's the most important, and when I met you all, that's why I'm doing these podcasts, because, I want people to know the people that are behind this amazing company. I don't want people just to know about this company. I want people to know the people behind it, because then they're going to know why I'm so fired up. Because as I shared with HIP, when you get to get down in the trenches and actually meet the people and get to know their hearts and see, their families and their passion, and you see, what they're about. Like I say, I will die for them. I'll fight for, I'll fight for Team Amare and the people who are there because I see their true heart. So I couldn't, that to me, so that brings me to the last one, culture, which to me is the deciding factor. Whenever I'm looking to go anywhere new, I want to go meet the culture. I want to know. So let's talk about culture for a second. What does culture mean to you?
To me, culture is the summation of the core values in action over and over and over and over. Repeating those core values, saturating all of our behaviors with our core values. I think culture ultimately is defined by the lowest quality action that leadership tolerates. Because you can set a bar here, but as soon as something happens that's down here, if this is not addressed and rooted out, this becomes your new culture. And that's something that we talk about, and we have very clearly defined lines of culture that we will accept and culture that we will not accept, both here in the corporate offices, certainly inside of our executive team. We're seasoned executives, and we know that the one thing that destroys most companies isn't market dynamics, it's not market forces, it's toxic relationships on the ownership and executives. And we know that, and we call it out, and we don't have it because we've all committed to not having it. So especially in direct selling, there's a lot of egos that come into play, and we just don't have it. We have no tolerance for it. That's why we all committed to having humility as one of our 5 core values. So to me, culture really becomes the summation of good habits in action, or summation of bad habits in action. And we're really grateful for the culture that we have here. And we've been very intentional about the leaders that we've cultivated and attracted in the field with our wellness partners. People join people, and when we start with intent, we start with the intent to set a positive culture, it just exponentially grows towards positivity. We didn't start this business talking about superficial things or money or taking advantage of people or trying to squeeze as much, dollars out of people as we can. We never will talk about that. That's just not who we are. It's not why we're here. We're here because we're purposeful and we want to make a true, authentic difference in people's lives, because our hearts go out to everybody. And we've been there. And we understand that going from the new normal today to amazing optimization and feeling great every single day, that's what gets us fired up. And I mean, I get energized just talking about it every time I get the opportunity. So.
You know, I will tell you, I want to share something with you because what you said is so powerful and so true. Because as much as I would like to think that I'm what's the proper way to say? I'm humility? No, that's not right. But I have, no ego and stuff like that. And
Humble.
And humble, yeah, and humble. And I work towards that. But I, like you, I'm very, very competitive, just a little, okay? And I come from two different companies where humility was not one of the core values. And ego was pretty rampant in those companies because that's what was bred. I'm not judging or anything. I became part of that. I was part of that. So, but really, really quickly, I didn't know what it was, but I know what it is now, especially when I talk with you and interview at HIP and stuff like that, is like, I had to check myself really quick because, I was walking around looking at, top leaders and top people in this company were just, hey, let me give you a number, call this person and tell them I told them to call you and ask them. And I'm like, what? Who does that, dude? Right? I mean, I'm used to like, this is our team and this is our team and we're not sharing information with you and this is it. And, we're all going in the same direction, but we're all going in different directions, right? But here at Amare, they truly, it's like that tribe, dude. They're locked arms, and I recognize that really quick. And I had to go whoop whoop whoop, and I love that because as an entrepreneur, as an influencer, as a leader, John Maxwell, great leaders surround themselves with people that are better than them, and that's what's happening here. And it raises our level and makes us better. And I heard HIP say that, HIP Tran. If you don't know, he's the founder, the owner of this company. And I heard him say, I will not, in any way, shape, or form, tolerate egos. And it's true, dude. I mean, there ain't no egos. And if you got an ego, I have no doubt that you will be seeing the door,
That's very true.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are words that are coming from authenticity, starting with HIP. And I'm so grateful for his, just like we planted the stake in the ground of saying we're the mental wellness company and we're going to own that. He was very clear as we went through the initial core values exercise of having, 225 words up on a wall that HIP, Rich, and myself kind of put together. And we said, okay, here's these 225 words, and whittled it down into 5 that we aligned on. HIP was very insistent. He's like, love and humility are going to be there no matter what. So it's really about picking the other 3. And that's why when we designed the office, if you look on his glass in front of his office, guess what's on his glass? It's love and humility. And that's on purpose. So I think that to have a founder and a CEO like that has absolutely all of the things in his life that have happened would create a high probability for a very large ego. HIP just doesn't have that bone in his body. And it's what attracted, it's part of what attracted me to this opportunity, because I had been searching for purpose in life, in my work. And I was running a company modifying cars in the automotive space. And great things came from it. If I wasn't in that industry, I wouldn't have met Katie. So, and built a family through it. So I think that what also came from it was HIP and I are both kind of passionate about cars. But more importantly than that, of course, is that we're passionate about self-awareness and personal development and getting coaching for us. HIP and I both had committed early on as individuals not knowing each other to get coaching and to get mentorship. And we both coincidentally had the same coach and mentor. And that coach and mentor teaches things like love is greater than fear, and find purpose and meaning in your work, because it will get you through the hardest moments as an entrepreneur and fuel you into being a creator, not a destroyer. So that mutual coach was where I defined my personal purpose statement, which years before the idea for Amare even was there, that HIP had the vision for Amare. I set my personal purpose statement to use my leadership strengths in any way I could to create love, happiness, and prosperity. And it's like you could put that statement on an Amare like flyer and it would fit perfectly, because we're all about love, happiness, and prosperity. And so when HIP came to one of these kind of executive group meetings with this vision for Amare, he met me at a time in my life where I was, the seeds had been sown in the soil and it was ready to sprout. This purpose was ready to sprout. And in my own business, I wasn't feeling very purposeful. I still like cars, I still like it, but it just wasn't as deep as I wanted to play. It wasn't as big as I wanted to play in the world. And HIP's vision for Amare matched with this, we have a clean slate of our core values, of our vision, of everything that we're going to do. And he was communicating on he needed, leaders to join him in order to fulfill this vision and make it happen. That's why I chose to find purpose every single day in my work here at Amare. And the cool opportunity to move towards purpose inside of what they do with us here at Amare and to really join us. And that's the unique thing about this model, that I'm new to direct sales, and I love that about direct selling, that people can kind of hitch their car to the train and be right there with us in the trenches of building this mental wellness revolution. I think that's just mind-blowingly awesome, and something that really opened my eyes about the potential building of this industry, where people can maximize and optimize their potential that we talked about earlier on in this call.
I could agree more. And, you make me think about, I know a lot of athletes, big athletes. I actually used to be part of the Billy Blanks Taibo group. I call him Mr. Blanks, but in that class, check this out. So that's where I met my wife. I was one of this is some things you didn't know about coach. I was one of the original Taibo people starting in Mr. Blank's garage. I was in all those videos back in the day. But there was this 8:30 class that we used to take. And in that class, right next to me would be Wayne Gretzky. There'd be Janet Gretzky. Gene Simmons would be here. His wife would be there. Shaquille O'Neal over there. Sugar Ray Leonard. Marcus Allen. Carmen Electra. It was unbelievable people in that class. And so I got to know a lot of these athletes. And we live in a time now when we talk about not having egos, it's like these players, these teams are not what they used to be because there's so many egos in them. They don't even travel together on the bus anymore. They don't travel together. And that's where that bonding happens. I don't know if you knew this, but this is true that I got my own plane. I've got my own, and that like the big stars and it doesn't work. You know what I mean? It doesn't work. So that having that no ego is huge and important. So I want to land this plane. So because let's bring it all around, because the reason I started this whole thing, and we talk about have you found your purpose. So you heard about all the different things that make up your purpose. And so if you're watching this, what I encourage people, how old are you, Mike?
34.
34. Okay, you're 34. I'm 56. You had a very successful, you're being humble. I know your business was very, very successful, and you sold it to come join HIP and the Amare vision. You didn't have to do that. You were doing very, very well. The same thing for me. I walked away from $1 million business because I wasn't being fulfilled. I stopped acting for 20 years because I was like, this isn't changing any lives. I'm not changing any lives. And I was in a total different place. And so a lot of people, we get stuck that we're not happy, And I encourage you, I want you to listen carefully if you're watching this now, because I know I'm talking to a lot of people right now. You think because you're 50, 60, 40, you're married, you got bills to pay, you got mortgages to pay, but you're not happy. You're not fired up. You can barely get up in the morning and you just got to go and you walk around like this all day. I'm here to tell you, you do not have to settle. If you have not found your purpose, and let me tell you something, when you find your purpose, you won't have to ask. You're going to know. You're going to be fired up. Like I love what Pat says. And, when you get that fire, when you get that passion, people will follow you to the end of the earth to watch you. So what was it for you, Mike, that, why Amare, dude? Why did you walk away from that very successful business, sell it, to come join HIP and the team here? Why?
Upside to make a difference. Just and keywords. Aligning around keywords like love. It's something that you just don't hear in the business world very often. Is let's build a company that the name of the company Amare in Latin means to love, and let's start from there. We don't know what we're gonna do exactly, but on HIP's heart was, I want to be in health and wellness, and I want to truly, authentically touch people in their lives and move them from not point A to point B, but point A to point ZZZ, like just move it way forward. And I was just like, wow. And inside of this kind of executive coaching group for 3-4 years, the other members of the group had said to me a few times, like, who are you going to be? What's your legacy going to be? When you have your funeral, what are people going to say about you? And who's going to show up? How many people are going to show up? How big do you want to play in the world? And that process of having people around me that were asking me questions like that, and to everybody that is making the choice to spend time listening to Rael here on these podcasts. I know that he's speaking into your lives on a consistent basis. I had the same thing. I had people that were speaking into my life with positivity and potential and asking me the right questions over and over and over and over, and really fertilizing that soil for the next chapter of life that could be a much bigger crop and a bigger harvest for everybody because of choosing to jump into it. And that to me is, I had invested for a while to get self-awareness, to understand who I was. And it doesn't have to take that long. It doesn't have to take years. So don't let that intimidate any of you. It's really asking the questions: who am I? What do I want to be known for in life? Is what I'm doing now meeting that objective or not? And then what would? And having some ideas towards it can prime you and have you ready when that, what I believe Amare is for me personally, and for anybody that chooses to get involved, is a once in a lifetime opportunity that kind of crosses our path. And we can walk with it, or we can watch it walk by us. And I'm grateful that I had good people around me. Katie was somebody I leaned on heavily and asked these questions. The other members of the executive coaching group, I asked them about it too. And it was pretty unanimous that, yeah, you're leaving something really stable, really great, something that is your identity, but you're ready. And I got that affirmation. And this is in no slight to where I was before, because it's a great company. It's still operating today. And I'm proud of everything that they do. But it's just, for me, I was ready to make a leap towards something that for me was more purposeful. Doesn't mean it's more purposeful for everybody, but I think you feel it in your gut. You feel it in that second brain in your gut. You feel it in your third brain in your heart when something's right. And just trust that and make those leaps and go for it.
I was almost going to wear the shirt, Trust Your Gut, because it's really poignant for this. So rapid fire, I do this on all my podcasts, and then we'll wrap it up and land this plane. So who is your favorite superhero?
Ooh, Superman.
Superman? Okay. So you get to be a superhero. You get to have any superpower you want. What would it be, and what would you do to make a difference in the world?
I think I always search for greater empathy. So I would love to be able to understand people's hearts when they're open to it. I wouldn't want to use it intrusively, but I want to be able to, when people want to be understood, to be able to understand them.
Okay, so you touched on a few of these things, so I always love this one. So, for example, my mentor would be my dad and my mom, Martin Luther King, if I'm going to stretch it, Abraham Lincoln, I'm going to stretch, but for sure my mom and my dad. My dad always taught me there's no such word as CANT. It's been with me since I was 13. We don't even say it in the Andrews house. And my mom always taught me, don't dream tonight. She'd always whispered in my ear. So we grew up on the other side of the track, and she'd say, don't dream tonight, son. Dream big. And that really affected me. Who in your life was your biggest mentor? And did they have a saying that was monumental or a big part of who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to my parents, I'll add into that Vance Caesar, who's the mentor and executive coach I've been talking about throughout this call. He's still a big part of my life today. And one of his mantras, his life is all about relationships. And as a young entrepreneur, starting a company at age 19 and growing it for 12 years after that, I wish I would have known that for the first 6 or 7 years, because I would have cherished and built relationships earlier through my early 20s that I started to build in my later 20s. And I think Vance has got to be right up there in terms of making an impact on my life, and his fingerprints are all over the Amare culture.
I love it. Well, listen, Mike, I want to thank you. I want to thank Katie for letting us have you. I know she's waiting for you at home and your beautiful baby, but I also want to talk to you guys watching this and, just share with you, if you're just keeping it real, okay? If you're an entrepreneur and you're watching this and, you've been moved to your heart, we are on. I didn't just join a company here, and this is why I'm doing this. I want you to know this. I joined a movement, I joined a mission, I joined a family. This is not just, as I'm sure you're getting from Mike and Hip and Pat and the other great champions, Rich Higbee that I've been interviewing. And I want you to know that if you're passionate about making a difference, or if you haven't found your purpose yet, if you're walking and we invite you to take a look at our brand, but specifically, more importantly, I'm looking for generals right now. I'm looking for warriors. We're looking for leaders, influencers who want to take this and run with us, because this is very important, mental health awareness. I'm very passionate about it. I struggle with depression myself, suicide, things like that, just helping people to be everything they were created to be. And it's the missing link, in my opinion. So if you're watching this and that's you, I encourage you, get back with the person who shared this video and say, hey, tell me more about this. How can I join your team? How can I join your tribe? Because that's what we want. We want warriors who want, like Mike said, isn't it crazy? Did you guys hear what Mike just said? And you know me, I say it all the time. We didn't compare notes. This is what I love, guys. This is not coincidence. He literally almost said the same thing. What do you want in your tombstone? How do you want to be remembered? What legacy do you want to leave behind? How many people do you want to come to your funeral? And it's not because I want to be the cool guy with a lot of people. It's because I want a lot of people to come to my funeral, because I want to say, dude, because of what that guy did, my son grew up to be a fitness professional. My son did this. And you know what? That's what we're excited about here at Amare. We're excited about leaving a legacy and making a difference. And if that fires you up, we want to talk to you. We want to talk to you because Mike can't do this by himself. I can't do this by myself. Hip can't do this by ourselves. But we can do this together. And I always say, how many lives can we change today? Not how can I change my life? So with that said, champions, I really, really appreciate you spending time with us today. If somebody's put on your heart, share this, tag them in it. As I always say, but I change it to we now. We will believe in you till you believe in yourself. Make the rest of the day the best of the day. God bless. Boom. Awesome. Hold on one.